Hi Emily, welcome. Now, we know that you have been a patient of Blue Tree Clinic for some time now. Some of our viewers may have seen you on a reality show a couple of years ago, but we'd love to hear what you're up to now and how everything's going.
Thank you for having me. So lovely to be here. So a good 10 years ago I was on Below Deck, and it was a big part of my life. And since then, since 2018, I've been running Power Food, which is a nutritional food company with my mum. We're a mother-daughter duo. And we've since launched a nationwide healthy meal delivery service.
Oh wow!
And that's my main day-to-day, as well as doing some influencer work. And
Sure. Tell us a little bit about that business. Where do you go specifically?
So it started as a predominant workplace catering business. We're nutrition and sustainability focused. The passion from that comes from my journey, which you probably maybe know a bit more about, and the fact that as a mother-daughter, she was on that mental health journey with me, and we learned about the power that nutrition can have on your mental health and your well-being. We really saw that where it was lacking was workplace food, because you're eating up to 3 meals of your day at work, and it has a huge impact on your long-term mental and physical health, and we wanted to change that. So that's where it stemmed from.
So Power obviously is all about nutritional food and nutrition in general. Where did that passion come from for you?
It stemmed originally from my teenage years, where I suffered from an eating disorder for sort of 7 years or so. And through that period, I had osteoporosis, which I managed to reverse. And through the recovery and several kind of inpatient periods and things, I really learned about nutrition and the power of nutrition from a mental and physical health perspective, and how important it was. And with the help of therapy and seeing, and some medicine at the time, nutrition was really a pillar of my recovery, and especially my long-term recovery. And that's where the original passion for food and how it can make you feel and how it impacts your health really came from.
So obviously you mentioned that you had an eating disorder and you found yourself in inpatient care, and then later on a TV show. So how did that happen? Talk us through that journey.
So it wasn't too far apart from each other. It was a whirlwind couple of years. And so I was, I think, 19 when I left, 1920 when I left inpatient care, and it had been previous to that, I'd only been on paediatric wards, and actually it was a very different experience where you do make friends with people who go through similar things to you. And that last admission, I was on an adult clinic, and it was a very different experience because I was around people suffering in a very different capacity. I was the youngest person on the ward, and from the get-go, that was when I really made it my mission to not be coming back to inpatient care, and I really wanted to get better. So I started putting in the work, and it's a big climb. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, and I got discharged into daycare and then into outpatient within I think over half a year or over a few months. And but on the discharge, I was told that I probably would be coming back in because I hadn't really reached points where they wanted me to be. But my parents supported me being discharged at that point because they wanted to help me from home. And I really made it my mission to prove that I wasn't going to be going back, and I luckily did. Very soon after that, I actually, for the first time, I was 18, moved out from home, got a job. I turned down a place at Cambridge University because I knew myself that it wasn't the right thing for me from a mental health and academic level, because academia was always a big pressure for me. The perfectionist trait. And I was working and I met someone who was a stewardess on super yachts, and she suggested that I should go and try it myself, and it was something I'd never heard of, and I looked it up, and I told my parents about it, and they were like, absolutely no way, you're not going. And so I kind of budgeted that to get the courses and the qualifications you needed to get out there, it was going to cost around £2,000. So I saved up and I flew out with literally £150 left in my account, being not supported by my parents at this point, to go out there. I think they wanted me home ASAP, and I got a job in 4 days, thank goodness. So then I landed on my feet, and I worked in yachting for 3 years, so I had an incredible time. It was, I was able to change my identity and be a different person to who everyone knew back home. Because obviously after 7 years of suffering from an eating disorder, I did have that identity around my family who'd gone through a lot with it, and also my friends through, through school and things, because it's, it wasn't nice for anyone. And I felt very guilty about that, but that was a big step in my recovery, because I was able to actually practice being the person I wanted to be around people who knew me for who I was, away from people who knew me for who I was. So I developed new habits, new experiences, new friends, and traveled to new places. And while in yachting, I started off in the Med and did an Atlantic crossing. It was on this crossing that a casting director reached out to me on LinkedIn about taking part in Below Deck, which at the time I'd never heard of, I'd never watched, I didn't know what it was. I had a little Google and I was like, oh wow, that's quite interesting. But I was actually, because I had a British laptop, I couldn't watch any episodes, so I didn't watch it before anything happened, before I went on it. And I went through the interview process and things, didn't think anything would happen from it, and then the next thing I knew, I'd been accepted and they were flying me out to Miami. So I told my captain, and he was like, yeah, okay, just go and do it, have an amazing experience, you're 21, like you've got to make this happen. Next thing I knew, I was being filmed on Below Deck, and it was that quick. I felt like I'd been transitioned into a completely different world and planet. I didn't quite process that I was filming until probably it finished after a good 6 weeks, because as soon as we were on board and filming Below Deck, it was like 24/7, 10 cameramen, cameras in every single room, and like audio equipment up. So I had no idea what I was letting myself in for. That's how I got from A to B.
That's quite a transition then, to go from being a patient in inpatient care and potentially going to Cambridge and then turning that down, and then you're thrust into this completely new world, and sort of overnight you become a somewhat recognisable face. How was that transition, and how did you feel about that?
It was a difficult transition. I think that I'd gone through, from my recovery point of view, I'd recovered a lot. I was in at a late stage in my recovery, because I'd actually been away from home for 3 years, and I'd grown into a different person. But I still had struggles, which a lot of people, I think, feel like it would be forever. I think it's like management struggles, but the residues of an eating disorder or mental illness. And actually being on the show pushed me into a next stage of me wanting to be, I wanted to be a good role model if I was, as being filmed, and knowing that I was going to have some sort of social media presence, albeit it's less than, it would be now if I was on reality TV, but it was something, and it gets viewed a lot in the States. It's 7 million views an episode. So when I came off, there is a presence, and it's very different. It was incredibly surreal, but one thing that kind of knowing that I was going to be, you know, seen by a lot of people and be in the limelight a little bit, that did make me want to actually be a good role model and pushed me out of habits that I'd been stuck in.
Yeah, so you may be one of the rare people that reality TV actually ultimately was good.
I'd say like long term, my journey 100%. There were things that were difficult about it. You know, you're watching it, and you know, suddenly you know, you realise your wonky teeth and this looks bad and why was I doing that? There are insecurities 100% that come from watching yourself on TV, but in general it was positive. I loved it.
So going through eating disorder recovery while being on camera must be unimaginably difficult. Were there any really particularly tough moments that you remember?
I think there were a couple. I mean, eating meals in general that you have to sort of, you know, accommodate yourself, because the chef was very busy, he was cooking for guests, he was being filmed, and he was making all the crew food. So there was fears there, because I couldn't be, you know, there was some food that I didn't want to eat. It did help when I started to date him and he made food that I liked, but that was an initial hurdle to get over, because there was lots of food that I wouldn't naturally want to eat and I just had to. And then I'd say one of the hardest points was right at the beginning of filming. I think it was maybe even the first day and the first meal. So I was overwhelmed and sort of having to, like, processing where I was and what was going on. And I found myself eating my first lunch. And at that point as well, I think there's a fear with, like, a lot of people experience it with eating disorders, where it's not nice being watched to eat and eating around people. I'm much happier eating alone. And that was still a struggle for me. And I found myself eating in front of everyone, and also 2 cameras literally on my plate of food filming me eat. And I remember so distinctly trembling and being it really scaring me, but not wanting, knowing I couldn't stop, and knowing and at that point in my mind, that's when it went through that there are going to be really tough points through this process, and I need to be seen, I need to be getting better and being shown to, it was a 6-week process, because also if I was going to start struggling more so, then I would have lost a lot of weight on screen and things as well, and I was conscious of that. I wanted to be I wanted to look healthy and also be healthier, and that was a really kind of scary point where I realised the situation that I was in and how I needed to cope with it.
Yeah. When you came off of the show, did you go straight into seeking therapy or any help, or was there a sort of relapse? What was it like?
I was actually, for a period of time, I didn't have any therapy, which is a weird one as well, because coming off TV, you sort of get dropped, and there's so much to work through and go through, because you have 8 months of waiting for an airing and not really doing anything properly, because you're absorbed in filming and things going on, and your mind is not in any place to be working. It's very absorbing, and like it's in an odd way. And I was living with Ben in the States, and then it started airing, and there's the there's everything you have to go through there with, you know, engaging with everyone live when it's airing, not knowing how you're going to be filmed and what you're going to be, you know, come out like, and how you're going to be perceived. So that was a real struggle. I didn't actually get any treatment over that time, and I probably should have done in retrospect. I didn't relapse at any point then. After a couple of years, I probably had a relapse in my mid-20s a little bit, and that's when I sought help again. So therapy, it's really key to, I think, from learning through therapy and what works and what doesn't. I've had CBT, I've had talking therapy, different types, and I've really learned from having different therapists that you need to find someone who works for you, because I think it's very easy to slip in and just get therapy and not understand why it's working. Obviously part of it is you putting in the effort and wanting to, and the other part is having like a good energy and synergy with the therapist. So I have used therapy, since my recovery and through different stages of my life since. Yeah.
So now, having gone through this journey and being in recovery, what would you say to anyone who might be struggling with it themselves, or have a friend or family member who's still very much in the depths of an eating disorder?
It's a hard one. I mean, I would say that what would have really helped me at that point was something that I really craved, was actually seeing someone who had recovered and had gone through the journey, because it's an incredibly difficult journey to start with. It's and you don't ever, I think, really feel ready for it, because you might feel ready at one point and then the next day it's way too scary to go down that again. You remain in your habit. Something that I would really say is, if someone's in the earlier stages where it seems quite smooth and there haven't been any scares or anything yet, and you're not too far into it, then it's a time to turn back around and really work on actually building healthy habits away from slipping further, because once you have slipped further, the journey to recovery is so much harder and more painful, not only for you but also your family, because you start to lose relationships with people and lose elements of your life that are once, exciting and joyful. You lose a sense of completely who you are, and it's, it can get to a point where suddenly you'll feel like, I wish I'd made a change at that point in time, or I wish I could wake up tomorrow and be better. But actually putting the work in is so incredibly hard. But actually having put that work in, I could say that even if you're someone really struggling, that I'd want to, be an advocate here for the fact that you can fully recover at whatever stage you're in. I've seen people do it time and time again, and it's worth the climb and the journey.
So now you're recovered, you're running this super successful business. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we started Power Food in 2018, and we started off as a small team focusing on workplace catering, and since then it's been an incredible journey. I couldn't quite believe where we've I still can't quite believe where we've got to now, and it's an ever growing team and venture, which is incredibly exciting and hard work. But I think we started, and then within a year and a bit it was COVID, which was not the most opportune time. What we had to do through that was, because obviously most of our clients went home because we were focusing on workplace catering, and we also did events and things, but that fell through the floor. So it was that moment in time when we were like, are we continuing, or, as lots of other catering companies did, are we shutting up for however long this may be for? And we were actually at that point also, we've always run a meal for a meal scheme, so we work with City Harvest, which is a charity local to us, and at that point in time, issue communities and children who struggle to eat at home, and their only meal of the day was at school, suddenly weren't eating. So we also really wanted to continue our support with them and work closely. So we carried on the company, and through that time we developed a home delivery range, which is still going now. It's sort of evolved into like a nationwide chef prepped healthy meal delivery company, which has been a whole different game in itself, running an e-commerce business. And we've now grown the team to 35 people, and we've moved into a much larger complex, and it's all very exciting. I suppose it's an interesting one, because prior to that, my focus was largely on social media and health coaching and embodying those elements, and growing and running a business is a full-time 24/7 thing, really, like it's a baby. So a lot of my energy and time now goes into that, which is very fulfilling, and I'm now trying to also I've continued my Instagram and doing extra things, and I love my writing and just having some other creative outlets. But the business going incredibly well. Something we love.
With all of the stress and of being a business owner, do you ever find that there are sometimes triggers or any things that might have you slip back into the place that you were before?
There have been periods where it can be very stressful. I think like when we've grown organically, and there have been points in the past where we were trying to raise capital, and we have there were employees to pay, and we were paying ourselves bare minimum, and that is a very high stress environment where you're really trying to thrive and grow, and I think we had to just, I suppose I've had to build up a certain resilience, and knowing that, having that invested interest and passion to and belief in the business, it's enabled me to also know that self-care and feeding myself comes first, because otherwise I can't be there for the business and for people working for us. So yes, there are times, but resilience is key.
Yeah. So you've been on TV, you've cured yourself of osteoporosis through nutrition, you've come through eating disorder recovery. What's next? What are your hopes for the future for yourself and for POW?
I suppose, with POW we're going for, we're really trying to grow the company to the next level, especially on we've got our corporate B2B side of things with events, and then with the nationwide meal delivery service, which is two very different things to run, because you're managing companies one side and customers and people the other. And what I'm really loving with the meal delivery service is the feedback from direct customers, and also people who are really sometimes cancer patients and things who need to eat well, and struggle to feed themselves and to have the energy to cook, and that they're buying our meals, and I love knowing that we're actually providing nutritious meals that are really doing them positive, being that are really positive for them. And then for myself, I'm trying to, having neglected my social media and doing panels and talks that I used to do a little bit more, I'm trying to get back into it again, and that takes confidence and boundaries and actually sectioning off time, but it's something that I do really want to do, so I'll be trying to do a bit more of that.
So POW sounds amazing. So if anybody wanted to hire you or find out more about your nutritious meals, where can we find you?
You can find us at powfood.co.uk, it's our website, and there we've got information on our catering side, which is for workplaces or private events, etc. And then if you're looking for home delivered, ready prepped meals, you can also find them there as well. We deliver nationwide, and they come in ethical packaging, frozen to help reduce food waste and preserve it completely naturally, and they're really delicious chef-made meals.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.